Hello, everybody, and welcome back to your favorite reading podcast, The Pretentious Book Club. I almost went into my intro for the Scripturian Society, our sister podcast.
I was
What
like,
is this?
wow, we never described ourselves as a reading podcast,
We
but
are a
we
reading
are.
podcast. Yeah. We are that thing. That over there is your host, Dr. Spoons Palermo.
Hi, howdy. Over there is Ash O'Rourke, but you can call her Wheezy.
Been
And for
easy being Wheezy.
anyone,
And also, that's Kendall, by the way, too. I just introduced you by your nickname. But if you
oh,
wanted her real person name, it is Kendall. I
my
can't
real
imagine why you
person
would,
name,
but
it's like that part in Avengers where, um, oh my God,
yes,
Peter
Spider-Man.
Park, yeah,
Oh
and
my
he's
God,
like, oh,
yes.
we're using our fake names. I'm Spider-Man. Yeah, exactly. Behind me is Jucifer, for anyone who has video on this. She is sitting on the table, which she should not be doing. Get down, girl.
My Juicy.
You know what?
She just
It's
walks
just
away with
we're
her
not
little
gonna do it.
non-tail. It's so funny.
It's a uphill battle.
Yeah.
I'll never win. You cannot
Yes,
win
I
against
understand.
cats.
There is absolutely no winning against cats because even if you think that they have decided to acquiesce on something,
They haven't.
they haven't, or they're just going to make up for it by being really, really bad in a new way. So
Oh
there is
yeah.
absolutely no winning. It's horrible. But
No, it's fine.
if you guys don't want to hear our nonsense and chatter and you just want to hear about the book for this episode, you guys can go to the description below of the episode and you guys can use the skip notes. Go to that time code. That's when the actual more focused, not completely because we can't really do that. It's not in our makeup,
The
but
marginally more focused.
the marginally more focused conversation about the book of this episode is. And look at that. I did it within like the first 3 minutes. You
Yeah,
guys
that
are
was
welcome.
crazy.
Haters that wanted to hate, they came ready to hate. I will probably give you reason to do so, but I haven't done it yet.
Just
So.
hold off for a bit.
Hold off, yeah.
You'll figure.
I'm also like a cat. You never really win with me,
Yeah. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna open this. Okay,
Ooh,
that was some
ASMR.
ASMR.
What are you drinking?
This is a strawberry white claw.
Ooh.
Yes.
I got strawberry guava hard seltzer Topo Chicos, and they are
Ooh,
delicious. Although
that
right
sounds
now I'm
wild.
having, and they're only like 100 calories and very low sugar, which is why I got them. But right
Mhm.
now I'm having a full sugar blueberry margarita, and it is delicious.
Oh, that looks yummy.
Gloria's blueberry margarita is where it's at. It's like the best like
Mm.
pre-made margarita thing ever. It is margarita wine technically, but
I don't
it's
know if I've ever
amazing.
had blueberry margarita.
Dude, it's so good. And also I got back today, my mom's lips were blue. And I was like, how you doing, Mom? And she's like, I looked in the mirror and thought I was dying because my lips had turned blue. And then I remembered it's because I was drinking blueberry wine.
Yeah, that'll do it.
So funny.
Oh, that's really cute.
Yeah, it was adorable. But anyways, Spoons, my waifu, how has your week been? Weeks, I miss you.
Yeah, I know it's been a long time.
Yeah.
My
I mean,
week,
not based on D&D, but based on
right? We do see each
anything
other
other
still,
than
but
D&D. Yeah.
for people who are for the listening audience, it's been a bit.
Yes.
Because we recorded our last one like 4 weeks ago. So
Yeah, we were like really ahead.
Yeah. It's been good. Big announcement. I got a new job for the listening
Woo-hoo!
audience. So yeah, that's exciting.
Wonderful. It's
I
so
start on
exciting.
Monday.
So exciting.
I'm a little nervous. I'm a little nervous, but
You
it's
so got
fine.
this. I'm so jazzed for you. I'm so excited.
Thanks, buddy. And what else? So honestly, I've been kind of like vacation mode because my internship finished. So like this week I didn't really do anything except for I worked the
Hell
last two
yeah.
Fridays. But
Uh-huh.
other than that, I was kind of like working on my book and like going
Nice.
and hanging out with Haley in town and stuff like that. So it was pretty
Oh,
good.
fun. I'm so glad for you. God, I love a good
Thanks.
vacation week.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm feeling very excited about my life. But I'm also like
That's
low
so
key about
good.
it. I'm like, I guess things are good. I don't know. It's
I
hard
guess
to
things are going very well for me.
sometimes whenever things are actually good, it's hard to be like, oh yeah, this is what I wanted from before. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, also I started rewatching Lost with Haley. So
I
I'm
keep
making her watch
almost
it.
starting a rewatch on that. But honestly, that show is so freaking intense. I was like, I almost didn't make it through the first time. I don't know if I can do a rewatch.
I love it so much.
I pretty
I
exclusively rewatch shows that are not intense on
yeah,
purpose.
Lost is like you kind of have to pay attention even if you're rewatching, I feel, because it's like
Yes. Oh,
it
so
just sucks you
confusing.
right in, you know?
Yeah, it
So
does. And I hated the ending. I know everyone had like such big feelings about it, but I didn't hear enough people saying that they hated it. I
really, I
hated
think
it.
everybody hated it.
Did
I
they?
didn't hate it. I thought it was
I heard
fine.
people, maybe it was just that people were like really into having like intelligent discourse about it.
You're like,
Like
I
when
don't
it came
want
out,
discord.
I was like, absolutely not. We're just all going to agree that we hate it and that it didn't happen. And we're going to create a new ending
How
for
would
it.
you
And
want it to end? Oh,
not like
spoilers
that.
for
I know.
Lost.
Spoilers for Lost. Um, well, let's see. I wouldn't want them to have all been dead the whole time.
They weren't all dead the whole time. That's the thing.
They were
People,
largely dead.
no, they all died at different times, but at the end, it was like everyone came together in the afterlife.
Hated
It
it.
was the whole
It
thing.
was horrible.
No, no, no. I think you need to
No, no.
rewatch.
Everything that happened then in the quote unquote afterlife didn't actually happen.
Well, not for like season 5, but at the on the island, yeah, it did.
Yeah. Yeah, which is this I take issue with the last season. The entire last
The
season.
last
I take
season.
massive issue with.
Okay, valid.
Massive issue.
I it was seasons 5 and 6 are not my favorite. I agree with you there.
Thank you. Thank you for the agreement. I already knew
I
I
think
was correct, but
season
thank you.
damn. I think seasons 1 through 3 are like golden age Lost.
I
But
agree.
surprisingly, I love season 4. I thought
I
it
don't
was really
remember it
fun.
that well. I remember I really
There's a
liked the
lot
first few
of
seasons.
like Sawyer Juliet being cute in season 4, so I was into that. But
That's pretty adorable.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was really into Evangeline Lilly's character.
Love her.
Yeah, and every time her backstory would come up and people would be like horrified, I'd be like, what's so shocking about that?
She did nothing wrong.
I'm like, no, I was like, exactly. I was kind of like, and what? So what? What's the drama here? Didn't really.
You're like, okay, like
And
you're gonna need something else to shock me, all right?
like, is this the worst thing going on really right now?
God, the funny thing about that show is that everyone is so messed up. Like, it's hard to even pick who has the worst backstory.
It's true. It's
all
like
terrible.
really like when you think about everyone who's on like a plane ride with you and you think about y'all's
Mhm.
backstory, that's like, is it possible like that all of the survivors of a plane wreck would be the ones with the worst backstories?
Well,
Or does everybody have a much worse backstory than I'm thinking that they do? I mean, I
see,
don't
that's a
think
good
mine,
question.
but I don't think mine can compare to theirs either.
But if you picked out like the worst 5 scenes of your life and put them into a backstory for your
That's
episode,
true.
it
It could be
also might seem
worse.
bad,
That's true. It
you
could be
know?
much more dramatic. That's very, very true.
But also, wait, now I'm like, see, this is the thing. Maybe I need to rewatch. Well, I am, but I also like sometimes I'll be like, no, I understood the ending, and then I'll be like,
Mhm.
wait a second. So did everyone get I don't
This is
remember.
what
Like,
I'm
was
talking about
everyone
though.
magnet? Like,
Everybody
were they
just
picked
talks
for a
about the
reason?
ending. Nobody knows. The ending. I think what I wanted was like, especially when we came to the last 2 seasons, they were so freaking weird. I was like, I want clarification. And then the way that they ended it, it just resulted in a million more questions and offered no clarification. And I was like, I'm furious. I expected at least some sort of like resolution.
Well,
Revolution.
Haley, the last revolution, storming the ABC studios for
Yeah.
Secret Season 7, where it explains everything.
Slap down a bunch of screenplays, and I'm like, this is actually the last season. We're redoing it. Let's go.
Let's get everyone back.
I get leaving some things open-ended because it's artistic and makes a statement, but they did not answer a single one of my questions, and they just posed a bunch of new ones that I wasn't even asking myself the whole time.
I wasn't even wondering about this. I will say that rewatching it, I'm surprised by how some things that I remember from the later seasons being like, whoa, where did this come from?
Mm-hmm.
Are literally foreshadowed in the first couple episodes of the show. When I was
love
rewatching
the
them, I was
foreshadowing in
like,
Lost.
wait, what? I cannot believe they had that figured out already, but not
That's
everything.
crazy.
I think some things they planned out and some things they were like, this is the seat of our pants. But no,
Yeah,
whatever.
like the ending.
Not the whole thing.
The whole last 2 seasons.
No, that's what I'm talking about. No, whatever.
Nah. The really good writers just quit, and they were like, we got to hire some new people stat. And they were like, hey, have you ever seen Lost? And they're like, I've heard of it. And they were like, perfect. We need you to write the ending.
Ash unequivocally dislikes the ending of Lost, everyone, in case you are just now tuning in.
Yeah.
Wait, what was I gonna say about Lost? Sorry, Lost.
You're rewatching it. I'm sorry.
No, it wasn't that. I was gonna be funny, but now I can't remember. It's fine.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm
so bad.
I know it was with my rage. I was playing off of something you said, and then it was me who couldn't remember. Anyway, moving on.
Well, your hair is doing a really cute, like flippy uppy thing at the end.
Aw,
that's adorable.
Buddy.
I used to be extremely jealous of girls with straight hair for so many, many reasons. But one of the primary reasons was that they could do the flippy uppy thing at the under their hair, and I could never do that.
You wanted it to do a little.
See, I really did. I thought it was the cutest thing in the world.
I don't do anything to it. It just does that.
It just does that.
But
it's amazing.
It's like when I was younger, I didn't like it as much because I thought it made me look dorky. But now I don't really care what my hair does.
Yeah. Wow. I feel that too.
Interest in that. I'm like, whatever. It'll do what it's gonna do.
Yeah. Aside from the color of my hair, I completely agree. I'm like, whatever happens now.
Yeah, seriously.
Like, I literally will cut my hair because I cut my own hair because I don't want to go pay a bunch of money for a haircut I don't care about. I'll cut it, I'll look in the mirror and go, not great. And then I won't think about it again until it's time to cut my hair again.
It's literally me. Same.
I so don't care. Oh, that's hysterical.
I'm like, well, it'll grow back.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Like, of all of my concerns, this is the least.
I just don't have the patience to do anything to it. I'm like, this is just what it looks like, and it's fine.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I'm glad that I've gained some apathy towards that, because when I was younger, it was a whole thing.
I am also glad. I can't count the number of days I came home crying from school because I had curly hair and all the other girls had straight hair. And they were really mean about it too. And the boys made fun of me for it a lot. So I wasn't just I inherently was like, wow, my hair's ugly. So many kids were just so mean about it. So I definitely came home crying a lot.
Kids will just find the dumbest things ever to decide to be mean about.
I know.
You're at least pick something out. I don't know. I'm dumb or something.
And
not that you're dumb, but
Wow. Now I'm wondering. So there was, I don't know why, but when I was in 3rd or 4th grade, all of the boys in my class started batting at me like sheep, and they did it all year long.
Because you had curly hair?
I'm thinking that's why. And this literally until just now, I was like, why the hell did they do that? And I never understood it. So it just made me mad and also upset because I knew I was being teased, but I didn't understand it.
Yeah, you're like, I can't even retaliate because I don't know what it's about.
I don't know what's going on. It must have been the curly hair thing because I had no idea. And one day I found a little plastic sheet with a little ribbon on it that said "bad" on my desk. And I just remember being so upset. I was just not even angry because I was a lot more sensitive back then. So I was just so deeply upset.
Wow,
about it.
They went through all the trouble to get you a figurine just for the joke.
Just for the joke.
Dedication.
And I have my suspicions. I think it was Karan. Karan, if you're out there, I think it was you. I know it was you. Oh God.
Call out post for Karan.
For Karan. He had the energy of someone who would be a really great stand-up comedian as a grown-up, which meant they were just an asshole as a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is about right.
Oh, poor Ash. I think your hair is beautiful.
Thank you. I'm definitely at the point where I do like that it's curly and I don't care about the specifics of it whatsoever.
That's good.
It's attached to my head. That's the best case scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not worried.
Love that. Funny.
Anything else from your week or from your fun vacay Lost rewatch week?
I'm trying to remember. I don't know. Nothing that everyone needs to know about, I guess. Oh, I've been corresponding with a lovely listener on the gram.
Oh, what? Which
yeah.
one? Hi, lovely listener. I have not seen your
Grace.
messages. Hi, Grace.
Oh, sorry. We're private messaging.
Oh, wow. Okay, I was wondering because I was like, I haven't seen any of these. I see how it is. Okay, Grace.
Oh, Grace, you should message Ash too because we've been talking about the selection.
Oh, I have opinions on the selection.
Yeah, Grace. Ash loves the selection too. You should message her as well.
I do. I couldn't stop. I was not the series I thought I would like, but I literally went home and bought the last 2 ebooks because I had to finish it that day, which I did not expect to happen to me at all. but that's okay. You guys can keep your private conversation. I don't
No,
need
no,
to intrude. I love it. I love when like listeners like get into like long conversations with us. I'm like,
I know, it's so
so
sweet.
nice.
Yeah. That was just me shouting at my friend. And then yeah, if y'all ever have any, if we cover a book where you're like, I have opinions on that, just message us
Would love to
because
hear
we're really, I mean, we are busy, but I will take any time to talk to people on
I
about
know
books.
I'm also busy, but I will still read your message, and I will usually reply quickly with like a, hey, this is great. I'll get back to you with a longer response as soon as I have
Yeah.
time, or I will just procrastinate on the other things I'm supposed to be doing, and I'll just send you whatever response I wanted to send in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah. If
That's good that you do that.
hated the last season of Lost, I want to hear from you.
Yeah, talk to Ash, and then if you thought it was all right, but middle of the road, message me.
Yeah. And if you really liked it, get out of the pot. I'm just kidding. That's not nice. But why do you?
Message me your favorite Lost character because I have a lot of opinions. And most of them are, if you tell me what they are, I'd be like, oh yeah, me too. I love them. Because now that I'm rewatching it, I'm like, I like everybody actually.
I really liked Claire, and I really
Claire
liked...
is my favorite this time around.
I'm
love
not
her.
surprised. My favorite the first time around was Kate, right? That was Evangeline Lilly, right?
Yes,
I'm having a moment
Kate.
where I was like, wait, do I not know her name? Because that character was what made me be like, wait, is Evangeline Lilly amazing? Yes, she is. She's
she
badass,
is so
adorable.
hot.
She's so hot. She's adorable.
Okay,
Anyways,
Kate
I'm a
was
huge
like
fan of her.
my queen. Oh my god, I loved Kate.
I
still love Kate.
I really liked her because I really related to her energy. And I was like, cool, Kate is the me. Because like you have a character that you kind of relate to, and then you have a character that you like admire kind of. And Claire was the one I admired. I was like, Claire's definitely a way better person than me.
Claire
and she's
is
really
an
cool.
angel.
She is, yeah.
She is cool. She was so funny. I just watched an episode where she and Kate were doing something together, and I was like, oh, so cute. They're such cute friends. But she was like, are you a Gemini? In her little Australian accent. And
So
Kate was
cute.
like, yeah, I am. And she was like, I knew it. I love astrology. And I was like, oh my God, you're the cutest ever. And like her big sun hat on the beach. I was like, oh,
adorable.
You make a plane crash look cute, honey. I was so proud of
Claire
them.
She does, and she makes being deserted on an island trying to survive while everyone around you is dying. She made that look cute too.
Somehow made being 8 months pregnant on a haunted deserted island after a plane crash look cute. And you know what? That's not hard. That's not easy to do.
No.
Also, I love Saeed. Saeed is my number one king.
Dude, I had such a crush on Saeed.
He is so hot, and he's so
hot.
It's the capability. It's what it is.
It is 100%. Saeed was my ultimate. He was my all-time crush, and then Sawyer was my sometimes crush.
Okay, I pegged you for a Sawyer girl.
Yes, he was like an 80% of my time crush. Saeed was 100%. Jack was like a 5%. I was like, you're a stick in the mud. Stop being obnoxious. Stop creating all your own problems and taking it out on other people.
Dang. Wait, how come we haven't ever talked about Lost before?
I don't know.
Okay, sorry, listeners. You probably don't care. I'm going to come over and we're just going to talk about Lost.
We're going to have a Lost rewatch podcast. I would actually have so much to say. I would have so much to say.
Absolutely do that. Should we do that?
We could do that. And we could just not do it on a schedule. We could just do it whenever we want.
Whenever we want. And it'd be so much easier than a book podcast.
That's very true.
One episode.
You guys, should we do a Lost rewatch podcast?
Yeah.
Would that make you happy?
They're
like, no.
They're like, we did not come here for Lost. But if you would follow us to a Lost rewatch podcast, send us a message on Instagram. Okay.
Yes, please do. Because now I'm considering
or email us.
That would be great. It'll be completely unedited. We can make it explicit, and so I don't have to edit anything out.
It would just be what it is. We would just talk about the episode.
Yeah, I love you guys can expect about as much focus there as you get here. So do keep that in mind. Because we have to stay on brand, of course, with our personalities. But yeah, you're right. There would be like so much less prep.
Yeah. That would be so fun. Okay,
I'm down. That would be the only way that I would rewatch Lost again, probably, to be honest. Because I'd get mad and have no one to talk to otherwise, just sitting here just like getting mad at the Lost episodes.
Yeah. And they wouldn't even have to be long episodes. We could just do whatever. Like, all right, we don't have a lot to say on this one. Okay, moving on.
We can literally just like be like, hi guys, this is the Lost Rewatch podcast. This episode was all right. That's the end of this episode.
Okay, join us next time.
On the Lost Rewatch podcast. There's got to be so many like cute little names that we could do for that, you know?
Oh my God. I'm going to be
Yeah.
brainstorming as soon as we get off this call.
Fantastic.
Like, I'm like kind of serious about this.
I'm also kind of serious about this. I think we
Oh
can do
my
this.
God, let's
It's nice
totally do
because
it.
we haven't promised to deliver on anything specific or specific timeline. So we
In
can
fact,
do
we're
whatever we
probably
want.
underselling how much we would be into it. We're like, yeah, whatever.
Exactly right.
But
We're
I know that
definitely
if I
underselling
was
it.
doing a Lost rewatch podcast, I would go crazy.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm also just thinking now, I can't believe that you don't already have some form of like media review podcast because I mean, after your Keanu-thon, that was what, like a year?
Logan and I were talking about doing a like Keanu-thon again and then just watching like doing an episode per movie.
Oh my gosh.
But see, podcasts like that already exist, but they never finished. The one that I was listening to, they never finished their Keanu-thon. So I'm like, listen, I could do two Keanu-thons in the time it takes you to do one.
That is
So
hilarious. Maybe you should. Maybe
honestly,
that's your
maybe I
calling.
should.
Not clearly not many people can. I definitely couldn't.
I was going through a specific type of mania or something. I don't know. It was 2020 and it was
For like a
everyone was
year. And you're
insane.
like, I'm feeling the mania again. I think I'll do it
I was
again.
seriously feeling restless and like I want a goal, but that isn't stressful. I guess I'll do that.
I get that.
Anyway, should we talk about the book?
Yeah, let's do it. So this episode, we are talking about I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. She's dancing, if you guys aren't watching the video. Which, by the way, our videos, I believe, are all actually openly available on YouTube now and on Patreon, even if you're not subscribed. So,
Sweet.
yeah, congratulations to everyone. You're welcome for the gift of our faces.
See these faces.
You're welcome. So, question first off, did you have to read this book in school?
I did not. That's why I wanted
Neither
to
did
read
I.
it for the pod because I was like, this is an American classic. How come I've
Yep.
never read I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings?
Yep.
Plus, my mom read it last year and was like, it's so good. And I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God, I'm really missing out. So
And of
that's why
course, I
added
grew up,
it.
like hearing about it and stuff, but also never had to read it for school.
Yeah.
What was your, I think it makes sense to do first impressions
Yeah,
before we
let's
talk
do it.
about the book. So what was your first impression of I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings before reading?
First impression was I don't know. I guess that I've always known about it, I guess. I was like, I know it's like a coming of age autobiography. That's all I knew.
You knew more than I knew.
And,
I didn't
and
know
I
it was
knew
coming of age
Maya
or
Angelou
autobiography.
wrote it. And there's also a poem.
Yes.
And those are the things I knew about it.
Yeah. I knew the latter too. I knew that it was by Maya Angelou, and I knew that she's like big news and like extremely talented.
She's big news.
She's big news. And I knew that it was a book about like the experience of a young Black girl. I didn't know that it was an autobiography, which was shocking,
yes.
horrifying, and then very admirable in that order, I think, to be honest.
Yeah.
This book was actually pretty stressful, but not in a bad way, except for part of it, which was not the writing, the fault of the writing. It was just
no, great writing, but yeah, some of it is hard to
read. Some of her
read.
life was very difficult as a young child, and I hate when someone has a hard life, especially as like a really young child, because I'm like, you just, life happened at you and to you, and you just had to deal.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do, really.
Yeah, exactly. So that was a bummer. But honestly, before that, I knew so little about this that I had this, I'll be honest, I expected more birds because I know what the caged bird sings.
Like a shocking lack of birds.
I expect like a lot of birds, just like
maybe one.
There'd be like a reference to a bird, somewhere. I was thinking.
Somewhere in the book is a bird, but no.
I thought there'd be a bird, maybe a bird in a cage.
Yeah.
No, there was and that's okay. I still think that the title of the book is still totally good, but I was surprised. And I think I'd also had a very like specific image in my head. Cause do you remember that Disney movie that came out where there was that, I think it was about like apartheid or apartheid in, I've never known actually how to say that in
Apartheid.
South Africa. Apartheid.
Yeah.
I said it wrong both times because I never say it out loud. Apartheid, that's horrifying. I'm really sorry.
But everybody. For people who don't know, who've only read it, maybe they were thinking it your way too. So this is helpful.
Yeah, so
maybe.
if you've only ever read the word apartheid,
Uh-huh.
and or you've just simply never said it out loud, so your mouth has never formed the syllables, because I certainly hadn't. Um, there is a Disney movie that is, I believe it takes place like during or just after apartheid, or that's supposed to be like the idea, like a representation of that. And remember, like there's a black girl and a white girl, and they end up like living in the same house, and there's a
I
bird
have
in a
never seen
cage.
this
And
movie.
you guys back me up, listeners. I think it was a Disney movie. I'm pretty sure it was. And it was like a really cute, like friendshipy Disney movie, but it was like, like one of the older Disney originals.
Uh-huh.
So like back when the movies were more like a movie that you would rent at Blockbuster, not like a
Uh-huh.
movie for just the kiddies, which is more, we're been skewing more that way. This was
Yeah.
long, but this was not then.
Okay.
So I mean, I don't remember what it was called, but I remember thinking it was an amazing movie and I really liked it. And also there was a bird in a cage in at least one scene. And so in
So
my
your
head,
brain was like, it's
I
gonna be
was
like
like,
that.
I was like, diversity, oppression, birds. I know exactly what this book is about. I've seen a movie.
I'm nailing this. Birds.
Different country,
Different
different
country and no,
conflict.
not so many birds.
Not nearly as many birds. Yeah. So
Oh, that's funny. That's so cute.
yeah, so that was my first impression. You guys
I
come
like
for
it.
me if that was upsetting to you, but I'm doing
Would
my
that
best.
be upsetting?
I don't know. They're like, we really just expected more from her. We really thought,
Expected you to know how to pronounce that word about something that happened in a different country
yeah,
that
and I
you
can't
have never.
remember the name of the movie. And I also
Mm.
was like, why were there no birds in this book?
Somebody knows what you're talking about.
My,
Somebody
you know
somewhere.
what? My goal is to I really want to relate to the lowest common denominator. I want them to know that they're not here alone. I want them to know that I'm right there with them. That is really how I've always felt about classics. I've always been like, does everyone else get this except for me? Okay. Yeah, everyone gets it except for me. So if you two have ever
Okay.
felt that way about
Okay.
classics, that is my life. But anyways, that is our first
First
impressions
impressions.
of I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. So now I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about Maya Angelou. First off, what do you think her zodiac sign is?
Oh. Mm, I don't know. Taurus. I'm making it up.
Aries.
Oh,
An
okay, yeah.
Aries.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Mm-hmm.
mm-hmm. Okay,
And at
girl.
first I was like, really? Because, I'm an Aries. I'm always like, wow, I love when great people were Aries. There's also some really awful people that were Aries, but we're not going to talk about them. But so I was like, I don't know. I mean, honestly, she just seems like, I was just like, I don't know. I'm not sure that I'm getting like the Aries energy from her. And then I realized that she kept describing herself, or I guess describing people's reaction to her, as people would think that she was really arrogant and were annoyed by her because, they thought she was so arrogant. And I was like, oh, well,
Okay, maybe
maybe they
so.
were just stupid. They just didn't understand her genius.
I feel like y'all are go-getters. I don't
Yeah.
know. That's just my impression of Aries is. So
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Anyways, so that's fun. I
love
enjoyed
that.
that.
Good for
And
her.
that is that like the only Aries author we've ever read?
Maybe.
Because
I
because
don't
I
know.
always like I want to get excited, like relate to our Aries authors, but I feel like
Yeah.
we never have any Aries authors.
I don't think we do have very
It's because we
many.
can't sit still long enough to finish
Yeah,
reading a
like
book.
screw this. I'm too
Screw
chaotic.
this. Yeah. Anyway, so Maya Angelou, whose original name was Marguerite Annie Johnson, was born April 4th, 1928 in St. Louis, Missouri. And she passed away on May 28th in 2014 in North Carolina. And I had this horrible moment on the Scriptorian Society, our sister podcaster writers, where Chris and I were like, Maya Angelou, she passed away, didn't she? But then neither of us could pinpoint an exact detailed memory of that. And I
Yeah,
was
me
like,
too.
wait a minute. And I was horrified. And yes, she passed away in 2014. So I felt like guilty for forgetting about that, but I'm not sure I was ever fully aware of it either at the time, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I sort of remember that happening, but like it wasn't I didn't remember like distinctly when or
Yeah.
where I was, but I kind of knew
Yeah.
it had happened. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say that this about your take on the Aries, if we're just always doing something, that's definitely true for Maya. She was a poet, a memoirist, a writer, an actress, and many, 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 many other things in her life. We'll see if I have the right article. I read a couple articles on her first, so I would just have like a
Mhm.
general idea. All of this information is coming from Britannica.com, by the way. So thanks, Britannica.com. See her several volumes of autobiography are potentially some of her most famous work. And they all explore themes of economic, racial, and even sexual oppression. And at first, when I started this book, I was like, why was this book banned in so many schools? It's because there's a trigger warning for if you've had some. I don't even know how to give a trigger warning for that without
Sexual assault
a sexual
trigger
assault.
warning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sexual assault trigger
Also,
warning.
yeah, for sure. I good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you remembered because I was like, we need to remember to do a little trigger
Yeah, to do
warning.
a trigger warning. Yeah, sexual assault trigger warning in this book. Because Maya Angelou was raped by a grown man when she was 8 years old. And that is
Mhm.
horrifying. And then the man was murdered subsequently after, which even in her book, she describes as feeling guilty. And this might make me a bad person, but I felt such triumph when they were like, and the man was murdered. And I was like, good.
I know one of the things, I
Which
guess
is
we'll talk about
not,
it more, but
yeah,
one of the things that was very like hard for me with reading it was that she was so young, she didn't even quite like
no,
understand like what had happened and that it wasn't her fault kind of thing.
no,
So
yeah,
she kind of like had all this guilt about it, which
yeah.
was really sad, but
It was really sad.
yeah.
Yeah. And so you get to see very much the insider experience of that emotionally, which is interesting because like you hear people talk about it, but of course, unless you've gone through it, you can't really relate to it. But of course, Maya was an amazing writer and communicator, so she definitely. It's just so sad to see it, like how, of course, a kid would react to that because they don't, understand like culpability and stuff yet. But yeah. Anyway, so that happened also. So just know that we will probably be discussing that at least very briefly in the summary. Probably not going to harp
Yeah.
on it too much, but anyways, so she was born in St. Louis, Missouri, but she spent most of her childhood in the care of her paternal grandmother in Stamps, Arkansas, which I did read as Arkansas, like for the first several chapters. And I was like, never in my life have I called it Arkansas. Why am I
That
reading this as
vine.
Arkansas? Is there a vine?
America, explain. This is Kansas, but this is Arkansas. He's like screaming and pointing at the map. America, explain.
That's
So good.
hysterical. That's literally me at my own country, and I didn't see the vine. It's really upsetting. Okay, so let's see. After that traumatic event that happened to her when she was 8 years old, which was, by the way, committed by her mother's boyfriend, so that's horrifying. Just like on an extra level. See, he was murdered, and then she was left almost completely mute for several years due to trauma after that. And she recalls in her book, which we can talk about more, how people were just getting kind of annoyed with her for being sullen. And on a
Mhm.
very, very, very different level, I do kind of get she was way nicer about it than I was. But like when I was goth for a few years, which is again very not comparable in the important ways, but I do remember being like, I wasn't as nice as she was. So I was angry because people kept making me feel bad for me basically just being a bummer all the time because
Yeah.
I was a bummer because I felt like a bummer on the inside. But
Mhm.
I was like, I can relate to this in the tiniest of ways. But
Right.
she was also like, but I don't blame them. And I was like, never mind.
You're like, actually, I
You're
did blame them.
I did blame them. And I had way less justification to do so.
Yeah.
So oh goodness.
Oh, that's good.
So this is her first autobiographical work, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, which was made into a movie in 1979, but was originally published in 1969. And it won the National Book Award nomination. I think it won a bunch of other things too. I don't know why I'm not seeing it on here. She's a heavily awarded writer, maybe one of the most heavily awarded writers ever. Her other autobiography volumes included Gather Together in My Name, Singing and Swinging and Getting Merry Like Christmas, which is an excellent title. The
I
Heart of a
love that.
Woman, I know. All God's Children Need Traveling Shoes, A Song Flung Up to Heaven, and Mom and Me and Mom, which was published in 2013. And I had no idea that she'd
Aw.
published something that recently. I was like,
Yeah.
2013, I can remember 2013. But here's what I can't remember enough of my life to write even one autobiography. I cannot believe she wrote like
Seriously.
7 of these.
That's what always gets me about people who write autobiographies. I'm like, how do you remember that? Like, how do you have enough like um good, or not necessarily good, but like
But vivid
quality
enough?
wise memories
Yeah. No
to
idea.
put all of them down from like such a young age. That's
Yeah,
the
I have
thing.
no idea. I have
Yeah.
no idea. I cannot. She was a special person. So in 1940, Maya moved with her mother to San Francisco, where we also get to see a lot of her life that takes place there. And while she was there, and this is me saying that, oh my goodness, yeah, she had the Aries thing going. She's just had to do everything. She worked intermittently as a cocktail waitress, a prostitute and madam, a cook, and a dancer. And it was as a dancer that she assumed her professional name and then moved to New York City in the late 1950s. And she started writing more and found her encouragement for her literary talents at the Harlem Writers Guild. And that was
Nice.
also when she landed a feature role in a production of George Gershwin's folk opera Porgy and Bess. I have no idea what that
Yes.
is, but you do know what it is.
Yeah.
What's it
Yeah.
about? That's it.
I
You're
mean,
like,
I know
yeah.
some songs from it. Yeah, it's
Oh, of
like
course you
yeah,
do.
it's a good. Yeah. Anyway, it's good.
Well, she toured 22 countries in Europe and Africa with that acting troupe doing that, which is pretty cool. And then she continued studying dance. And then in 1961, she performed in Jean Genet's play The Blacks. I don't know anything about that play either. And then that same year, she was, quote, persuaded by a South African dissident to whom she was briefly married to move to Cairo. And I was
Wow.
like, wow, that is a mouthful of a sentence. There's so much packed in about her
Yeah, it's
life
like,
in that
that's a lot going
sentence.
on in that sentence.
Goodness gracious. So while she was there, she worked for the Arab Observer, and then later she moved to Ghana and worked on the African Review. So she also wrote in like nonfiction, like reporter journalism stuff. So I'm just like,
Wow,
this
that's
woman did
crazy.
everything. Yeah. And so then she returned to California in 1966 and wrote Black Blues Black, which aired in 1968 and was a 10-part television series.
Oh,
And let's see, she became one of the first African American women to have a screenplay produced as a feature film when she wrote the movie Georgia, Georgia, which I believe came out in
oh,
1972. So that's cool.
wow, good for her.
Then she acted in a bunch of movies in the 90s, or maybe not a bunch, but at least two, which feels like a bunch considering everything else she was doing with her life. I'm like,
Considering most
how?
people don't act in any movies in their life.
Yeah, exactly. So she acted in Poetic Justice in 1993, How to Make an American Quilt in 1995, and then appeared in several television productions, including the mini-series Roots in 1977. I don't know anything about it, but I will say when you Google Maya Angelou, a bunch of stuff comes up about Roots. So that might be an interesting thing to check out. She received a Tony Award nomination for her performance in Look Away, despite the fact that, quote, the play closed on Broadway after only one performance, end quote. Can
Oh,
you
one of those.
imagine? Yeah, but can you imagine being so damn good at what you're doing that you receive a Tony Award nomination for a
After one
performance that
performance.
ended after one night? That's bananas. Crazy. And then she also directed Down in the Delta, which came out in 1998, and the documentary Maya Angelou and Still I Rise in 2016.
Oh, I vaguely remember that.
Yeah.
Like,
Let's see. And then she wrote a bunch of poetry, which I won't read all of them because I already keep reading all the titles because she has like such like interesting, vivid titles for everything.
yeah, that Christmas one sounded good, or
I
winter
know.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, it was adorable. She also wrote a book of meditations, and then she also wrote a
Whoa.
bunch of children's books. And I feel like Maya could write
What?
some really good children's books. Like, okay, I'll read the name of the children's books: My Painted House, My Friendly Chicken and Me, Life Doesn't Frighten Me, and Maya's World. I think
Aw,
those are all adorable, and I want to get
my
them all for
friendly
my
chicken
child.
and me.
I know. I'm like, I have
Yeah.
some friendly chickens and some not so friendly ones. Um, my not so friendly chicken and me.
Yeah, that's a
The other
sequel.
side of the Maya Angelou child book.
Right.
So she also dispensed anecdote-laden advice, another direct quote, to women in her what is this? It looks, I'm not sure what this is. I don't know if it's like a publication of some kind or what it is, but it's called Letter to My Daughter. And it was
Hmm.
released in 2008. But interestingly enough, her only biological child was male.
Hmm.
So her son, Guy Johnson, she got pregnant with him when she was 17 years old. She did briefly marry his father after that, although they only got divorced after a few years. And I believe he's also a writer. That's about what I know
Hmm.
about Guy Johnson. But let's see. In 1981, by 1981, people referred to Maya Angelou as Dr. Angelou, even though she didn't have a college education. I think she earned like something crazy, like 50 honorary doctorates or something.
Oh
Like
my
50.
God.
Isn't that bananas? I can't even
Oh, you had
imagine.
honor it. Okay. I thought it was
Yeah.
just like, no, people were like, no, this is, you just have to be a doctor now.
No, but they all just called her doctor.
That's
And
great.
she did become a professor of American Studies at Wake Forest University in North Carolina. And North Carolina is where she passed away. It looks like at the same town. So let's see. She was invited to compose and deliver a poem for the inauguration of US President Bill Clinton in 1993. She wrote On the Pulse of Morning, which I believe I have heard before. And then she celebrated the 50th anniversary of the United Nations in the poem A Brave and Startling Truth. And she also elegized Nelson Mandela with the poem His Day is Done in 2013. And that one was commissioned by the US State Department. And I think that that's
Wow.
awesome. In 2011, she was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is really
Oh.
freaking badass. Yeah, so that's great. And then she passed away in 2014, making her, how old do you think? She was born 1928. Let me see.
Math. What? Well, who knows?
uh 86? 86, I think.
Yes, 86.
Yes, I did just use a calculator for that,
Me
everybody.
too. I just literally Googled it, the equation.
But so I wasn't insane to think she could have still been alive, because I was
No,
like, am
it's
I
possible.
insane? Yeah. So anyways, that is honestly just the briefest glimpse into the life of Maya Angelou. Luckily enough, she wrote like 7 autobiographies. So you guys, if you want to learn the details, you certainly
Yeah, you
can.
can go find them out.
You can. You certainly can.
That
I
was
want to know about
great.
the South African dissident that she was married to for
I
a short
know.
time.
What's that?
I want to know what that was about. Yeah.
Me too.
Anyways, so yeah.
Thank you,
let me know.
Ash.
You're
Lovely
welcome.
research, lovely delivery.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay, so before we even talk about it, you know what the structure and some of the content of this book reminded me of?
What?
Tree Grows in Brooklyn.
Oh my God. You're completely correct.
It's like, here's a young girl from, I mean, not that long ago, but not present, I guess. And it's like her growing up until she's like 17. And then it's like, and
that's it.
That's it.
And
you're like, oh, okay.
You are so correct. And
it's
who
kind of
wrote
the
A
same.
Tree Grows in Brooklyn again?
I can't remember, but I really liked it.
I also really liked it. Even the voice, like the tone.
Betty Smith.
Betty Smith, yeah. Even the tone was very similar, which is interesting because it was, I mean, a completely different childhood experience, like completely, but such a similar tone.
Similar tone. That's kind of what it is. And also, Tree Grows in Brooklyn is a novel, but we did discuss how it's kind of autobiographical,
Yes, so. That's right. It was super autobiographical.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So this book is literally an autobiography. So the main character is Maya herself, but mostly people call her Marguerite throughout the book. And so Maya has her older brother, Bailey, and she loves him so much. They're best friends. They are the cutest. And they kind of, a lot of the book is kind of going to be hard to summarize, I think, because it's a lot of just vignettes pretty much of like her life.
Yes.
So I think I'll just do a general, like, here's where they were living kind of thing. Yeah. So she starts out with like some stories about living with her grandmother in Stamps,
Arkansas.
Yep. So it's her, she and Bailey are living with their grandma, who they call Mama.
Their dad's mom. Because their parents, when she was 4 years old, stuck them on a train and just sent them and were like, go live with your grandma.
Stamps. Yeah, it's a little wild.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, kind of crazy, but so she and Bailey just live there and don't really know that much about their parents, or like have never really even, don't have any memories of them or anything. Nope. And they're also their uncle, and Willie. Willie. He's disabled, and so he stays with Mama as well. And so they're kind of the family unit, but they run, Mama has a
business, store.
Like a shop. And so Bailey and Maya help like with the shop and stuff. And there's a lot of like little stories about them going to church and causing trouble and like getting into trouble, and
pretty typical childhood shenanigans.
Childhood cute stuff, a lot
Yeah,
of it.
but mixed in with some, of course, white people being really bigoted and
Yeah, a lot
gross.
of like terrible racism thrown in there as well, because
Mm-hmm.
that was her experience.
Yep.
And this would have been like the 30s and 40s when she's
Yeah.
really young.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I mean, I'm sure it was horrible as we
I'm
read in
sure
the
so too.
book.
Yeah, well, and especially when she was in Stamps, like that is Stamps, Arkansas was still very much like the South
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
time
yeah.
too. So I mean, they were still very
Really,
much,
really segregated. And
yeah,
she talks about like kind of being like, I don't even know if white people are real. Because
yeah,
like
because she would never see them because
they
they
never,
never left that part of town.
right, because it was dangerous.
Yeah.
And so yeah, there's some horrible stuff with that, of course. And like
Mm-hmm.
people, oh my God, that scene where those little girls were
Ugh,
like making fun of her grandma, that part made me so mad.
I know, same.
That was horrible to read.
Yes, it was.
And so she's kind of, this is like the environment she's growing up in and stuff. So, and
Yeah.
then they end up going to stay with their dad for a little bit. And he lives in, or their dad takes them to visit their mom, who lives in St. Louis. Is that right?
Yes, I believe
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
And so they stay with her for a little bit. And she seems all right. It's like I don't
Yeah.
understand, because she's actually like not that bad, but she kind of was like, okay, y'all go.
I know. I
And
was
it's
really
like you
confused
would
by
expect
that.
her to be like not fun and like mean, but
Yeah.
she's actually pretty nice.
Yeah, she's pretty nice. And then later on, like, you're like, wow, she's actually like a pretty good mom. And I was like,
Yeah, she
at what
is.
point were you like, it's fine, I'll just give my children away? I have a
It's
very hard
very
time
interesting.
reconciling those people. But I wonder if their father, Bailey Sr., was had more of a part in that decision because he's kind of the worst.
Yeah, but even he wasn't like as bad as I was expecting.
He was
He's
exactly what I expected. He was exactly what I expected.
he was, yeah, I guess he was kind of bad.
I mean, he
I don't
wasn't.
know.
I say he was the worst. He wasn't the worst. He could have been a lot worse, but he was exactly what I expected, and I expected him to be a disappointment as a father. And I was like, I was right
Yeah, yeah.
because they also said about like he was the one who sent them away on the train, so which
Mhm.
makes me think obviously the parents made the decision together, but I feel like it was his idea. You know,
And
I
then they're
just
kind of like they're not even really together though, the
mm-mm.
parents.
No, they're not.
So yeah, I don't know. There it's just an interesting thing. And we also, I guess, because Maya was so young, she doesn't know what was going on either. So
No,
we as the readers don't know what was going on. So
no
all we have is a 4-year-old and
conjecture.
a 3-year-old on a train to get by themselves. And we're like, what the heck? But I guess
Yeah,
we don't really know what was going on.
yeah.
Um, so anyway, they go and stay with their mom for a while. And Bailey, like her brother, kind of like immediately loves everybody and he's
Mm-hmm.
a little bit more social than Maya is, it seems.
Yeah,
Um, a little more outgoing, maybe.
yeah.
And so, but yeah, so while she's staying with her mom, that's when the horrible sexual assault rape happens, and it's
Ugh.
horrible.
Yeah.
And so then, yeah, he ends up, they go to trial for it and everything.
Yeah.
I was surprised. I didn't think it was, when that kind of thing, I could tell. I was like, oh
Mhm.
no, this is about to happen. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God, and nobody's gonna know. Like that's what I
Yeah.
thought.
I was
Because
really surprised that anyone found out and that they went to trial at all. And I was very
yeah, me
glad.
too. Although
Of
of
course,
course
then he got a year.
a year, and he didn't even have to serve it. And then but then he did get murdered immediately after. So, you
Yeah.
know.
And I was like, wow, there's a dark side to me I didn't know because when they were like, and they found him dead, I was like, good. And I was like,
I
wow,
mean,
Ash. I
it's
mean,
really hard to be like, oh, that sucks,
oh, the rapist is murdered. You're
Oh, the
like, yeah,
child rapist is dead.
yes.
Like, okay.
Oh, exactly.
There's a certain
But
point where
I
it's
was
very hard to
so
come back from
satisfied.
that.
Like something in my heart was so satisfied. I was like, I don't know that I'm ever supposed to feel that kind of satisfaction at the idea of another human's death.
Yeah, you're like,
But I definitely did. I was like, you absolute garbage person. I'm so glad to hear this.
Yeah, and even her mom, remember the police officer came to the door and
Mm-hmm.
was like to tell them that he died. Her
Yeah.
mom was like, "Oh, yep, well, okay."
Shame.
And then they
Shame.
just and
Do you
yeah,
think that Maya's uncles did it? Because they were known for kind of being like hotheads and getting in fights and stuff.
they could have, because she was kind of
I
saying
feel
that
like they
like
would have.
she was, yeah, I think it was somewhat implied it could have been them, but I
Yeah.
don't know.
I mean, obviously these are real people, so like who
Yeah, we don't want, I
knows?
guess we don't want to conjecture
No,
about
I
it,
mean
but
you can't conjecture for the sake of the story because, you know, it's not it happened. But I'm just saying I could see it. I could have seen them being involved,
well, she knew they'd
but we don't
be,
know.
we don't know. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
the interesting thing I think about autobiographies is like they are, she is so young. It's amazing she even has these memories, really.
Yeah.
Like, so
Seriously.
it's like the things that
Oh
she
my
doesn't
goodness.
know. It's just interesting because it's like you're kind of along for the ride with the narrator, you know.
Yeah.
That's why it's interesting, I think, to read about child perspectives.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
um so anyway, yeah, so they stay with her for a little bit, and then yeah, she goes through her, you know, kind of not talking phase because of
Yeah.
the trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And you know,
And
who
they're
could
really
blame her?
patient with her for like a couple weeks, and they're like, "Oh, God,
Yeah, and
she's
then
just
they're
the
like,
worst. She's
okay.
just so quiet." And I'm like,
One,
all right, well, she's been through some pretty horrible shit. So maybe we
yeah,
should just
like
be nice to the 8-year-old. Maybe.
a little grace maybe. One
Mm-hmm.
thing that I feel like this is true. I don't want to paint with too broad a brush, but almost every book I have ever read, you know, autobiographical, semi-autobiographical, or novel that features children and it's set before like 1990,
Mm-hmm.
people are so impatient with
With
children.
children,
And I
100% they
can't
are.
understand it. I'm like, I'm sorry. And it's like everybody. I'm like,
Yeah.
what? Why is everyone so mean to these
Why is everybody
kids?
surprised that these children are children?
Yeah, going to
Like,
act like children and they don't
crazy.
have it all together. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
crazy.
wild, absolutely crazy. But
Yeah,
yeah,
who
they
would
end
have
up
thought?
going back to stamps, and
Back to
Bailey's
stance.
kind of
Yeah,
bummed, but you know, she's
right.
like, oh, at least it's quieter and fewer people are like annoying me here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, and so yeah. Oh, you know what I thought was interesting? She was talking about how like everyone in the city was like way behind on like school stuff, but she
yeah,
and Bailey were like really ahead. And I
yeah,
was like, oh, that's interesting. Like
yeah.
their like rural small school was like doing a better job than the, yeah, anyway.
Yeah. Well, they were
Um
getting teachers like right out of that, like that teaching college too. So they were probably getting teachers who still
oh,
cared
that's
about their
right.
job. And also Bailey and her specifically really liked reading and really cared about it. So there's probably a
Yeah,
little bit of that too.
they did. They were always like, she was like, yeah, I was doing my third reread of Jane Eyre. I'm like, aren't you supposed to be 10? Like, what
Yes.
are
She was like
you
a
talking
young
about?
child, like quoting Shakespeare. And I was like, I am a grown woman and I can't do that.
That part where she, it cracked me up. It's like so early in the beginning, but she was talking about how she was like, Shakespeare was the first white man I ever loved.
I
She
was
was
like,
like,
you're
I
not
figured it
alone.
was okay because he'd been dead for so long. I
Oh
was like,
my
girl.
God. That is so funny.
And she was like 8 years old. I was like,
Yeah, she had a
okay.
lot of crushes on authors, like when she was 8 years old. And I'm like, what kind of genius child were you?
She was just, yeah, like memorizing Hamlet at age 9, like no big
Yeah,
deal.
no biggie. Yeah,
Um,
she's a
yeah,
genius.
it was just very funny, but that cracked me up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they go back and yeah, I'm trying to think of like specific events, but there's like she's getting older, there's like picnic and stuff. There's
Well, I mean, I think it's kind of confusing. Like, she does make a friend, a boy likes her, and she's got like, you know, a lot of
yeah,
trauma.
she
And so she like does not respond well to that.
mhm.
But then she finds out that he's actually like totally innocent and well meaning, and then she kind of likes him, and then he's not interested in her. And I was like,
Yeah,
yeah,
that
that's
made
about
me
right.
sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
was glad she
then
made a friend though.
I
That was
know
so
she did.
sweet.
But then for some reason, and I don't know why, there was some mama decided that she needed to move them
Hmm.
to what was it San Francisco at the
Yeah,
time?
then they moved
San
to San
Francisco
Francisco because that's
where
where her dad lived. Or
yeah,
he lived in California.
yeah,
Yeah. But
yeah,
mama
exactly.
moved with them.
And
Yeah.
I mean, Maya in the book just talks about like not really understanding why. I don't know if there was any implication of a reason that I missed, but I didn't pick one up if there was. It just seemed very sudden.
She was talking about how there was that incident where Bailey came home and was like
Oh,
really
that's right.
upset. And they were like,
Yes.
what happened? And it was because this
Oh,
guy was
so
dead
horrible.
and Bailey's walking around
Oh,
town. He's what, 11? And
yeah.
this guy, they're like pulling him out of the river and he's dead.
It's
And
so sad.
basically, this other guy, this like white guy, was like, hey, you come help us
Move this
move this
body.
dead body. And it's like very suspicious and scary
It
and
was very
sad.
suspicious. Yeah.
And he was like freaking out about it, as
Yeah.
an 11-year-old would.
Yes, and should. Yeah. That's true. That was
And
really shortly
so
before
I
they
think
moved.
that
So maybe that was it.
Maya was kind of implying, I think that my mama was like, maybe it's
Maybe I should
the
get the kids
racial
out of here.
tensions are too wild here.
Yeah.
Maybe they should
Yeah,
move to
that's very
California.
possible. Yeah, that's very
Um,
possible. That did happen right before they moved.
yeah. And so they moved. And then, yeah, there was like a weird time where mama was staying with them, but then she ended up going back. Right. And then their mother came.
Mm-hmm. Didn't they go up to see her, like their mom? And then she went, um, and she stayed with her dad for a little while. But I think didn't
Yeah.
Mama and Bailey stay with Mother Dear?
With mother dear. Yeah. Well, yeah. So they were all in California, but then she was living in San Francisco and their
Yeah.
mother was there. And then
Yes.
her dad was like, hey, Maya, come stay with me in LA or Southern
Yeah,
California.
Southern California somewhere.
And
Yeah.
so she was like, oh, but when they first got there, they were living in LA. Sorry, now I'm confused.
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
they're all in California. And
Yep.
so there was
Yes.
a lot of moving around. And so
There
then, yeah,
was.
she goes to stay with her dad, Bailey Sr.,
Uh huh.
in Southern California for like a summer.
And he is a
And
real disappointment of a person.
he's kind of wilding out. He has a very young girlfriend, Dolores.
Yes,
And
who is annoying, but he also treats her really badly. So I'm like, y'all
yeah,
both suck in very
Maya
different ways.
Maya immediately was like, I don't know that me and Dolores vibe.
Mm-mm.
Because Maya
They
feels
did
kind of awkward
not.
in her skin and she's kind of like,
Yeah, but also
um,
she was what, like 13 or something or older at that point, or like
and her
even maybe
dad,
15. And her dad had told his girlfriend, his quote unquote fiance, who he had like said he was going to marry and they were living together and stuff, that he had 8 and 9 year old, he had 8 and 9 year old children.
yeah. And so Dolores was reasonably like, wait, what?
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
can't blame
then,
Dolores for being shocked and put out with him.
no, me
wish she
neither.
hadn't been mean to Maya, a child, once again,
Yeah,
whose fault it wasn't. But yeah.
exactly. Yeah, they just
Ugh.
didn't totally vibe. But I think Maya
Mm-mm.
was trying a little bit. But
Yeah.
then,
She
yeah,
definitely
her
tried harder than
dad,
Dolores.
yes,
Yeah.
her dad would like he was a really good cook, and so he was always making good food and stuff, and he would
Mm-hmm.
sometimes just hop down to Mexico to like get ingredients because Dolores didn't want him to be getting ingredients where they lived because like then he'd have to interact with Hispanic people, which is like what's going on.
But you can go to Mexico and interact with Mexican people.
I know, I was like, wait, what? So
And because he speaks Spanish fluently too. And I
yeah,
think Dolores doesn't like that he would do that with Hispanic people in the area. Cause it like, it's also, they live in a trailer park, but she acts like she's ritzy, like they're higher class. And
yeah,
so, yeah, it's very weird. She's definitely intent on
Maya was
climbing the
like, she's
social
very
ladder.
pretentious.
Yes, she is pretentious. And I think
um
the dad doesn't really care about actually being higher class. I think he just wants people to perceive him that way and he's happy.
yeah, he's
Like he
like,
didn't seem to really
he
care
seems
that
very
much.
sociable. When they went down to
Yes.
Mexico, he clearly, he goes down there for a good time, not
Oh
just to
yeah.
get ingredients. And
Yeah.
so he and Maya are like at this random bar, just like having a great old time. And Maya's
Yeah.
actually like having a pretty good time.
Yeah.
But then
Because he
things
knows
get,
how to have a good time.
he's a party guy. And then
Yeah.
things start going kind of south because she's like, okay, are we just staying in Mexico tonight? Like, what's going on? And her
Yeah.
dad's super drunk and kind of like leaves her at the bar. And she's like, I don't
Yeah.
know what to do. And then comes like my favorite part of the whole book when she decides, she's like, I've never driven a car before. I'm 15, but I'm just gonna drive the car 50
This is
miles
also a
back
manual
home.
transmission car
Manual
too, you guys.
transmission car.
There is so much more to driving a manual transmission than an automatic. If you're thinking I could probably do that, could you do it on a manual? Because it's different, you guys.
This is like the 40s. And imagine that car. And
Oh my
so she's
God.
driving this car at night from Mexico back to California, crossing the border. And
Yes.
she can't, and she's never driven a car before. And she's like, I can do it. And she's just doing it off pure audacity, honestly. And
It's
I
true.
really respect that.
I do. I respected the hell out of that. I was
That
also
is just,
terrified
I was
for her
so
and of her.
scared.
But
Yeah, a little bit of her. I was like, whoa, girl. Okay.
yeah, I was like, wow, you're
And
capable of anything.
And that was kind of like her vibe too. She was like, I'm really smart. I can do it.
Yeah. She's like, I am a
Okay.
genius. I bet I can figure it out. And I'm like, I respect your confidence in
Yeah.
yourself.
Know your worth. I mean, she kind of did do it. Like,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
then
she did. She was
they
successful in getting from point A to point B.
when they got to the border though, she was like had to stop to like talk to the people, I guess.
Hmm.
And then she when she was starting up the car again, she accidentally like made it lurch to the side and hit this
She
other
hit someone's
car.
car.
And then
Yeah.
everyone was yelling at her in Spanish, like, why did you hit our car? And the thing that was cracking me up about it was that she's like running on so much adrenaline that she was just purely calm. And she was
Yeah.
like, this didn't bother me at all. She's just kind of trying to figure out what to do, but like not worried.
Exactly. She speaks like a few sentences of Spanish, maybe.
So funny.
God, I
Then
was so stressed out for her. Oh my God.
her dad woke up and he, smoothed everything over and it was all
Because
fine. And
he's a schmoozer.
he's a schmoozer. And then they just went home and then she got in a fight with Dolores. And then after that, she was like, all right, I'm done. And she
Yeah,
went
screws.
back to San
A
Fran.
physical fight.
A
Dolores
physical
attacked
fight.
her with, I
Dolores
assume,
did
what is a
cut her.
knife. They don't say that they
Yeah.
cut her, what she cut her with, but she was cut.
She was
Yeah.
literally bleeding. It was
Yes, and
not
this
good.
is the other thing about Bailey Sr. He wasn't like, get out, Dolores. You can't hurt my daughter. He was like, well, I guess it's best if I go drop you off with some strangers at this other trailer park. How about you just stay there and don't come back to the house because, Dolores and you probably shouldn't be in the same, trailer together or whatever. I was so like, seriously?
And he was already cheating on her anyway. I was like,
Yeah. Like, why do you care? You're down in Mexico cheating on Dolores, which apparently he does habitually.
Yeah,
So
very frequent.
very
Yeah,
dumb.
it
And
was
so then
frustrating.
yeah, and Maya just decides, you know what? I'm just gonna drop off the face of the map. And he does nothing about it, by the way. I'm like, I can't say world's worst father. I know that there are worse fathers, but man, he does get a prize for being shitty. Like for being a shitty dad.
He wasn't great.
Like he's not a horrible person. He's not a great person, but he's really shitty at being a dad, like for sure.
Yeah, he could have done better on that front.
And also being in a committed relationship. Other than those two things, he's like an okay person.
Yeah, he's all right. He's got some
Fidelity
really good
and
skills.
Fatherhood, he's scoring a zero in my books. Yeah.
He's scoring a zero. But what part was so cute? I thought it was so cute. They're with their mom, Bailey and Maya, and she like wakes them up in the middle of the night and is like, and she's kind of like, Maya's like, what's going on? Like, is this something bad happening?
God,
and her
so
mom,
cute.
yeah, she was like, okay, we're having a party. And they were like, okay. And she was like, you are the only two guests and you were the most esteemed guests. And they were like, oh, great.
Like,
and she
like
made food for them. And she was like, I'm so sorry we don't have an orchestra. And it was so cute.
It's adorable. I love that
was
for them.
so sweet. See, like their mom can be really fun.
Yeah, well, their mom is totally good. And like, she's almost kind of the reverse where like, she thinks she gets herself into some like sticky situations as based on her like personal choices, but she's damn good at being a mom,
Yeah, it was one of those. Yeah. And then as they get older, Bailey and their mom though and they've always been really, really close, but they start getting into some fights and stuff. And it's kind of because Bailey's like copying what she's doing with her personal choices and it's making her mad. And she's like, you're not allowed to date that sex worker or whatever. And Bailey's like, I'm going to.
You can't stop me.
And
so
yeah, and so
definitely that thing of two personalities that are too similar, especially strong personalities under the same house. That's difficult.
That's probably
and also
true.
I mean, Bailey was a young man. What was he 18
like
or
18
something?
Yeah,
and I mean, so it's about the time that even like kids who have really good relationships with their parents, particularly sons, do typically reach the point around 18 where they're like, oh, I'm kind of not loving being stuck here, kind of
I think that's basically what it was, because they pretty much immediately made up.
Yeah.
which I thought was sweet because like they clearly really get each other. Yeah, like you said,
Yeah.
they're very similar.
Yeah.
And so
But
yeah.
before that, Maya had been homeless for a month in Southern
Oh
California.
yeah.
Yeah, she just decided. This was confusing to me because she could have like rung her mom to send her a plane ticket, but she was like, I'm just gonna stick it to my dad by surviving by myself in the streets of San
Kind of forgot
Diego.
about that.
I think it was just like truly like to prove her mettle to herself was kind of like what it felt like because
Uh-huh.
she didn't have to. But so she basically she was looking for somewhere to stay and she found this it was starting the weather was bad and she found some like car in like a junkyard full of cars and she thought I'll just sleep here. And when she wakes up there's a bunch of kids staring at her all kind of like her age and it turns out it's this group of like kids who are they're all homeless but they all like work odd jobs and kind of look out for each other and they all sleep there together and they're kind of this just like pretty decent gang of kids, not like a
Mhm.
gang of kids but like a collective of youths.
A collective of youths.
And so she hangs out with them for a month and she picks up some work with them and she wins a dance competition with one
The
of them that she
dance
dances with.
competition. That was
Yeah.
so cute.
And that's when she's been taught to dance her whole life, but that's when she really started to enjoy dancing, like really
Yeah.
got into it for the fun of it.
I forgot
Uh,
about that.
yeah, and then she just decides, oh, I guess it's time to go home. And so she calls her mom and she's like, hey, can you send my plane ticket here? And she, by the way, never tells her mom that she's not still staying with her dad. So this whole time, her mother has thought that she was still with
Yeah.
Bailey Sr. So her mom's like, of course, I'll send the plane ticket to your dad. And she's like, I'll just send it to the airline. I'll pick it up there. And so
Yeah.
she's like, oh, okay. And she just like never tells anyone. I
She's like,
think
I just wilded out for a month and
yeah.
I'm not
Well,
gonna
I
say
think
anything.
maybe she does tell Bailey, and Bailey's like, yeah, she does tell Bailey because she says something about how like she told him, and he was like, whatever, because he was in like that phase
Yeah.
of nothing
He
impresses
started
him.
being like, I'm too cool for my
Yes.
sister's stories or whatever. And I was
Yep.
like,
Exactly.
where's my sweet Bailey?
I
But
know,
yeah.
and that's about when he moved out. So.
Yeah. He was just
Yep.
grown up. But it
Yeah.
made me happy that they like seem to have maintained their very close relationship, you know,
Yeah, they
like
did. There was
even
it got
through.
a little weird and rough there for a little while, but
But like
as
who
happens
doesn't,
between
you know?
teenagers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, the dance competition was very cute. I totally forgot.
It was
She
really,
was
really cute.
yeah, and
I also really enjoyed the diversity moment of this book. There weren't a lot of like positive interactions between people who looked different, let's just say that most of them were pretty negative,
yeah.
but like the collective of youths, the collective of street youths, as
Mm-hmm.
Schmidt would say, probably from New Girl, they were like all different kids from all different places. They were like white
Mm-hmm.
kids, black kids, they were Hispanic kids, and I was just like, oh, I really like that. And it goes back to that thing that people say a lot about like kids and like younger, like, like, yeah, they're still kids at that point. Like they don't, it's not that they don't see the difference. It's just that they just don't care as much, to be honest. And I'm like, at what point
Right.
do people
Yeah.
start caring? Because it's definitely more natural to not give a shit
Well, it's
about
like a
how other people
taught
look.
thing, you know,
Yeah.
like that's why it's, yeah. So I
Yeah.
guess if you're, I mean, those kids probably relying on each other. I
Yeah.
mean, even though probably everything in their broader society was like, you shouldn't all be friends. They're like,
Yeah.
well,
They all were.
these are my friends because they
They're all
take
like,
care of me.
listen, all of our adults of all these different races have already let all of us down. So let's just agree adults suck and let's all be
Yeah,
buds.
we're all banding together.
I loved it. I was like, you
Yeah,
guys are
very
my
sweet. I
inspiration.
think that was kind of a thing for Maya too, because
Yeah.
where she'd come from, it was so segregated. And you're
Yeah.
right, she didn't have really hardly any good experiences with like white people, or didn't
Mhm.
even know that many people who weren't white or black.
Yeah,
And so moving to
exactly.
California, she was even talking about how like because they were there during the war, she kind of saw like
Yeah.
Japanese people getting displaced because of the internment
Yes.
camps and stuff. And I was like,
Yeah.
this is like crazy. Like she's kind
Yeah.
of having this, she's, it was like a thing of like when they first got there, this whole new thing of like all these different cultures and lots of different people and stuff. And then seeing some people just getting displaced. And then it was a
Yeah.
whole crazy thing. It's just interesting to see like big historical events through like one person's eyes. I always love
Yeah.
it when
Who
that
was there, who
happens.
lived through it. Yeah. It's so
Yeah,
different than like just reading about it.
right.
And it was also interesting too, because I mean, it's absolutely not like oh, good things come from bad things, because the Japanese internment was horrible, horrible thing that
Yeah.
happened. But it was
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that
interesting.
was good.
Oh no, I know, because I was about to make the point that it was interesting to see how through Maya's eyes, that area of the city that had once been like a bunch of Japanese owned businesses became all Black owned businesses and became like, I think she described it as like the new Harlem, and became like a really like
Right.
vivid, like full of life area.
For
And like with a
her,
bunch of,
yeah.
yeah, for her and for other Black people in the area, and became, this like big area with a lot of like financial success for them. Which you're
Right.
like, oh great, and then you have to think, wow, but it happened like right on the tail of this horrible thing that happened. And it doesn't make any specific point except to just say, wow, it's really interesting to remember what any area in any town has seen.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
it's just so easy to forget how many things have happened.
Yeah. It's very
Yeah,
interesting.
it is.
And yeah, I really liked all her descriptions of San Francisco and stuff.
Yeah, I did
It
too.
felt really
Mhm.
vibrant and
It
like
did. Yeah.
her descriptions are really good.
Yes, they were.
She's such a good writer that like I kept forgetting how good she was because I was so in it. Like,
Hmm.
and then I'd be like, wow, actually that description is amazing. But like I was kind of just glossing over it because it was
Yeah.
so all of them were amazing. So
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking
Yes,
about?
absolutely. I completely get that. Oh, that's so funny. I kept
Yeah.
forgetting that I was reading an autobiography and kept thinking I was reading fiction because it
Me
was told so
too.
well. Yeah.
Yes. And then she
She's determined
yeah,
to
it
work
was
on a
close to
trolley
the
car.
end. Yeah, she wants to work on the trolley car.
Yeah.
Um
And she does,
yeah,
by the
she
way. She
does.
fights the system and becomes the first Black woman to work
Work
I
a
forget
trolley
what they're
car.
called, to work on the trolley cars. And she's like, yeah, I did it.
Good
And
for
her mom
her.
like gave her a lot of like good like anecdotal advice and stuff. And like during that whole period, and I was like, she's such an inspiration. I like this woman.
She really is. She's cool.
Yeah, she's cool. But yeah, so
Yeah,
that
that
was
was a
happening.
fun little thing that happened.
Yeah.
See, she really see that's what I mean. Go getters. Like she was like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do it.
But here's her thing too, because she was like basically offered a bunch of other jobs that were easier and made more money. And I would have been like, excellent, sounds good. And she was like, I had just decided, like, I wasn't even trying to make like a big statement. I had just decided that no one was going to tell me no for the sake of saying
Yes.
no. Like,
And I
I'm like,
love that.
wow. I do too. I
It,
wish I had that energy, but I don't
it
know that I
really
do.
it made me think of that part earlier in the book, which was oh my god, that part was really intense. Not necessarily, I don't know, just emotionally it was intense, but
Yeah.
it was at her graduation. Do you remember
Uh-huh.
the part where everyone was kind of like whoever was talking was basically like it was just this whole thing of whenever the Black students get awarded or accolades for stuff, it's
Uh-huh.
always sports because
Yeah.
nobody is like giving them equipment or whatever for like nobody
Yeah.
cares and about academics or like they cared about academics but nobody wanted them to succeed in that. And
Yeah.
so then it was like a thing where it's like yeah, not nobody has done it, but they had to work really, really hard and they shouldn't have because
Yeah.
all the white kids just have all of the stuff. And it's
Yep.
like she was kind of like, this isn't this isn't fair. And it was a thing where she was like
Crazy.
really proud of herself for
Yeah.
graduating. And then she
Mm-hmm.
was like, actually, what's the point? Like, there's really no point that I graduated. And it was really
Yep.
sad.
It is
But yeah,
sad.
but then that made me
Yeah,
think of
it's
that because
almost
it was
like
kind
we
of
still
like,
have that problem with our public school system.
interesting, interesting,
Weird. Interesting.
crazy.
Weird.
No, good point. But yeah, but then she was like, yeah, just the actually, no, I am going to do it and screw y'all kind of thing. I was like, good for you. Although it sucks that she even had to make that point, but I guess, somebody had to do it. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
anyway. And then she ends up, yeah, kind of towards the end of the book, she, gets, pregnant
Yep. She
and,
just basically decides. She just walks up to this guy and goes, "Want to have sex with me?" And
she's
he's
like,
like, "Okay." And
yeah,
I'm
it's like,
like,
oh, all
"What's
right.
happening?" And yeah, and then 3 weeks later, she's like, "Oh, I'm
I'm
pregnant."
pregnant. All
And
right.
then she doesn't tell anyone until she's 8 months pregnant. She's managed to hide it.
I couldn't believe that. I was like, how did you? And then yeah, and then she's like, okay, everyone, I'm pregnant, like expecting a big blow up. And they're kind
Yeah.
of like, all right.
Yep. They're like, okay.
And then
Yeah.
everyone's very supportive and nice to her about it. And I was like, good.
Yep.
And her mom, then the last scene of the book is she's kind of nervous around her baby because she, obviously you don't want to hurt a newborn baby and,
Yeah.
new mom and whatever.
Yeah. And
And
her
her
mom says
mother,
something like, if you're made for the right thing, you'll do the right thing, or something like that. And basically is like, you don't need to worry about, you love him too much to hurt him. Don't worry about
yeah, it
it.
was sweet. And then they kind of were cuddling together on the bed, and
Yeah.
then that's the end of the book.
Yep.
And I
It
was
was
like,
very sweet.
wow,
Yeah.
good book.
Yeah, it was a good book. You're right. It had a lot of the tone of A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, and it was like the same period of life, like from the same age
That's
to the
what made me
same
think of
age
it.
when it
Yeah.
started and ended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very early to just like late teens. You know what
Yeah.
other book does that? Angela's Ashes. It's the
Oh,
exact
does
same
it?
time period. Yeah.
I haven't read
Well,
it.
not like in history, but he's
Yeah.
like, it's from him as a very young child to like 18. And then
Interesting.
he's like, and I'm off to do stuff. And you're like,
Wow.
wow. It's
Interesting.
truly, these are truly coming of age
They
novels.
truly
I
are.
was
Yeah.
telling Haley the other day, coming of age novel is, or except for this one, she's an autobiography, of course. But
Yeah.
and okay, sorry, Angela's Ashes is always also an autobiography. But I guess coming of age stories are like my favorite. I think it's the best
I know
genre.
they are.
I'm so obsessed. Like I could read everybody's coming of age story.
I am not a big fan of coming of age stories typically. And I don't know if it's because I don't remember so much of my own childhood and coming of age that I just truly can't relate. It almost feels
Mhm.
foreign to me, or that maybe my childhood was just too weird and I don't relate. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't really relate to the coming of age stories. And I'm also like, I just wanted to get done with my childhood so fast. I just wanted to get through it and get out of it.
Oh.
And so I just don't ever feel the desire to relive childhood, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I'm like, oh, I didn't get to go to prom. Oh, I never got to be a kid. And then sometimes I'm like, that's okay. I really just wanted to get through it as fast as possible and forget about it. And I did exactly that. So I succeeded.
You really
I
did what you
really
intended.
accomplished.
Good
Yeah,
for
I
you.
really accomplished what I went for. So whenever someone's like, "Oh, it's a coming of age story," I'm like, "Don't care." I literally did work my entire life to basically skip over the coming of age part of my story.
You're like, I don't care about that so much. Where
Mm-mm.
I want the of age part.
Yes, I don't want the coming of. I just the of
I
age.
just
I'm
want
just
the age.
age now.
We're
And
the
I
age
was
stories.
I want the age story. And I mean, I was probably like an 80-year-old woman from the age of like 6. So
Mm-hmm,
if there was a coming of age story, it happened between 0 and 6, so I wouldn't remember it even if my memory wasn't garbage.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, that's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And
Yay.
it was wonderful. What would you say
Yeah,
your
great
favorite
book.
and least favorite parts of this book were?
Least favorite part is very obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Not that it was written poorly, but it was very hard
No.
to read about
Deeply
her
horrifying.
sexual assault.
Yes, it was very, very,
And
very hard.
all of it was very well written, but some parts of
Mhm.
it were very hard to read. Not even just that
Yeah.
part, but other parts of the book too.
Yeah.
But favorite part was I think her driving the car. I don't know why,
Ah!
but I thought it was so funny. And I
Oh
just
my
really like,
goodness.
I felt like it was like, this is her as a character. She was like, I'm just going to do it. And she just
That's
went for it.
hysterical. That is so funny. I think least favorite part is the same. Favorite part might be when she got the trolley job. Like she was just really like vibing when she got the trolley
Yeah.
job for a while and I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
But also that like period where she was like going to college and then she got pregnant, like that whole period of her life I was really enjoying. I know that
Mm-hmm.
the getting unexpectedly pregnant was stressful, but then she like got used to it and was excited about the baby and then she had a
Mm-hmm.
baby. So I really just enjoyed like that whole last part of the book because I was like,
Yeah.
yes, there's still a lot of stressful things, but at least a lot of it's not like overtly traumatic. So I'm enjoying
Right.
this.
And she's older, so you feel like she can handle
Yeah.
more stuff and you're like not
Yeah.
as worried about her.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe.
Her life has struck a bit more balance. It was never unbalanced because it was her fault, but all the people
Yeah.
around her had just sent her life careening out of balance so many times. And finally at this point, at like by she was determined to get the trolley job, it was kind of like she finally had the independence to take charge of the balance in her life herself some.
Yeah.
And she
Yeah.
did. And it was awesome. And I
Love that
loved
for
it.
her. Yeah,
Yeah.
I loved all the, I think the San Francisco section of the book, or like the California section,
Yeah.
was my favorite.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, I agree. I
yeah.
think so. What would you say favorite least favorite character?
Uh, Favorite character, I guess Maya.
Yeah.
I also really liked Bailey, and I really liked he wasn't a main character by any means, but that fancy lady from Stamps
Mrs.
who,
Flowers.
yes, Mrs. Flowers.
She was so fancy and
I
elegant.
loved her.
Yeah,
I
she was
loved
pretty
Maya's
cool.
descriptions of her.
Hmm. I
So
liked
just
that
like
too.
as a bonus character, she was
I
my favorite.
found Bailey kind of annoying. That's funny that you're like, I loved him. I was
Really?
like, he's kind of
I thought he
annoying.
was sweet.
He was all
I don't
right.
know.
He was okay, I guess. Um, so favorite character, I do like a tie between three women, like for very different
Sure.
reasons, each of them, between Mama, Maya, and Maya's mom. I loved
Oh
all of
yeah.
these women. I was
No,
just like,
totally.
for very, very different reasons, all of them. But I loved all of them. They were
Hmm.
wonderful and inspirational.
They
Um,
did. They were great.
yeah, I was like, if I had the fraction, like just fractionally the oomph that they have, like the vivacity and inner
Oh
strength
my
and wisdom,
God.
oh my God, I would have so much shit together. Like these
I
women were
know
amazing.
she had some pretty great mother figures in her life.
She did, yeah.
Her, I mean, Mama sometimes I felt was a little harsh, but
She
I
was,
understood her. I mean, not that I
yeah.
understood what it was like to be her, but I
No,
felt that I knew why she did the things she did.
yeah,
So I was
I
like
agree.
willing to forgive her for some of the stuff that
Exactly.
bothered
Well,
me.
exactly. Mama was a little harsh in ways that I was like, "Ugh, really? Ugh. And then her actual mom, of course, her personal life choices did create some consequences, I feel like, for the family. And that is my personal opinion. Um,
Yeah.
and so I was like, "Ugh, that's painful, you know? And then of course Maya was
Yeah.
just being a kid, just stuck in the middle of all of these adult
Yeah.
choices. So but she was awesome. And she definitely, I think, like kind of seemed to be absorbing the best of those women. So
Oh, I think so too,
that's why
for
I
sure.
liked it.
And
Least favorite
she
character.
writes with such like reverence about Mama, which was so
She
sweet, I
did, yeah.
think. You know, like you
Yeah,
can tell like she loves her so
exactly.
much.
I
Yeah.
wonder if that book that she wrote in 2013 that was like me and my mom is about those. I wonder if that's
I bet it
them.
is.
That's what I
That
thought of
sounds right.
immediately. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Least favorite character, Mr. Freeman. That was the
Oh,
yeah,
obviously.
the
Yeah.
garbage man who was murdered,
Don't even.
and we
Yeah.
were happy. So, anyways,
Yeah.
um, yeah.
Who what else do we do? Oh,
What else do we do? Lessons
favorite
learned.
quote?
Oh yeah, and favorite quotes. Yeah. Which one do you want to do first?
I'll do my favorite quote because it's right here.
Okay, go for it.
Well, there were a lot of good quotes, obviously, but while I was listening, oh, and I listened to the audiobook and it was Maya reading it. Um, so that was great. I loved hearing all the stories like in her voice. And I think she recorded it in like 2011.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I
Did you
was blown
listen to it
away.
too?
I listened to the sample of it and I was saying on the Scriptarian Society, I was like, I had no idea that the audiobook that she recorded her own audiobook, but it was awesome. And as the sample was amazing. The production value was fabulous. She's obviously she she must have just read her own work aloud so often that she became an amazing reader, like a reader aloud, or
She
maybe
has
she always
an
had that talent.
she has an interesting cadence. It took
Hmm.
me a little bit to get into it, but then like after a while, I really liked it a lot. Because
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, when I saw it was read by the author, I was like, "Wait, this is so
I
great!
know, I
This is like
love
what you
that.
want from an autobiography."
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but and then I knew that like she was saying it the way she might have remembered it or something, so it like felt
Yeah.
more real. Anyway,
Crazy.
so, but while I was listening to, there's a lot of great quotes, but then while I was listening, I just, for some reason, I was like, oh, that's so beautiful. And I like bookmarked it and then I found it
Uh-huh.
again later. So this is like right before the graduation. And she was so excited for it. But I just love the way this was written. I thought it was very sweet. Um, she says, I hoped the memory of that morning would never leave me. Sunlight was itself still young, and the day had none of the insistence maturity would bring it in a few hours. In my robe and barefoot in the backyard, under cover of going to see about my new beans, I gave myself up to the gentle warmth and thanked God that no matter what evil I had done in my life, He had allowed me to live to see this day. Somewhere in my fatalism, I had expected to die accidentally and never have the chance to walk up the stairs in the auditorium and gracefully receive my hard earned diploma. Out of God's merciful bosom, I had won reprieve. It's just such a sweet way to talk
It
about
is.
graduating from eighth grade. I was like,
It's
oh,
so
she's just like
sweet.
12 years old and she's like, this is the best day of my life. And she's like, I love sunlight was itself still young and the day had
I
none of the
know.
insistence maturity would bring in a few hours.
I
What
know.
a
I love that line
sentence.
too. I know. I remember that one too because I was like, oh, it's beautiful.
Oh,
I love
great.
that.
Love it.
My quote is, God, I love this quote so much. Without willing it, I had gone from being ignorant of being ignorant to being aware of being aware. And the worst part of my awareness was that I didn't know what I was aware of. I knew very little, but I was certain that the things I had yet to learn wouldn't be taught to me at her high school at the time. And I was like, wow,
Oh my
that's real.
God. That's really good.
Yeah, I think it's amazing.
Why am I crying?
Yeah, I mean, being ignorant of being ignorant is that is the state of being that we refer to as ignorance is bliss. Being aware that you're aware, actually, this is where I think people get it wrong because I think some people are like, well, I'm aware that I don't know everything, so therefore I do know everything. And I'm like, no, no. You're aware that you're aware, but you don't know all the things that you're still unaware of. And now you're aware of that, and it's horrifying, and you feel
It's
very
like
stupid.
it feels insurmountable,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. You shouldn't be like, wow, I'm so smart that I
And
know that
then
I'm ignorant.
her having to be like, well, now I'm just going to have to teach myself or learn from other people. Like nobody's
Yep.
going to strategically teach me things. It's like now life is teaching me. That's really
Yep.
scary too, but
Yes,
exciting.
it is. I completely
Wow.
agree. Completely agree. What, I guess, lessons did we learn from Maya's life? I mean, it's weird because it's an
Yeah, it's like
autobiography.
what did Maya herself teach us?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we kind of talked about a lot
I
of
feel
them, I
like we
guess.
did. I mean, it's not the lessons in this are not veiled because it's a coming of age story. So everything
Yeah,
that
and
Maya learns, you learn along with her in this like autobiography. So
right.
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, it's hard. I don't know why I'm blanking. I'm like
You're
not
crying.
blanking because I like I feel that I it would be crazy to be like, sorry, I didn't learn any lessons from I Know Why the Cage Bird Sing. But
I
it's also hard
know.
to like point them all out like in a
It's
um
overwhelming almost.
right,
What
exactly.
is that sound? Do you hear that sound?
I don't.
Hang on one second. I'm sorry, I have to mark it.
Oh,
That's
go ahead.
I can literally see my microphone picking it up. It sounds like a jackhammer. Ow. Oh, my spine hurts. Somebody like mowing their lawn at night outside. I think our
At
neighbors must
8:30
be
p.m.
like, yeah, in the dark. Because that's got
Hmm.
to be what it is. It's so weird. Anyways, that's cool. If you guys hear some weird sounds in the back of the audio, I don't know that I can get those sounds out, but someone I guess is mowing the lawn in the pitch dark outside right now.
Great.
Super annoying. Oh wow. Anyways, yeah,
um
hard to I also am like I don't what if I like get the wrong lesson or I misquote a lesson from Maya because I feel like that would be like an
yeah, because
egregious
she's a real
flaw.
person. This is her real life, so it's
Yeah,
like harder to pinpoint. But
harder to
I feel
pinpoint, yeah.
like one of the things that autobiographies in general, but also that specifically this one, that Maya also I think um, you know, is aware of for sure, but
Mhm.
is like everybody's kind of got their own thing happening and you don't really know what their life experience has been and you
Yeah.
can't really like judge what people do necessarily based on your limited experience with them. It's
Yeah.
like kind of an awareness like what you're talking
Yes.
about becoming
Yeah.
aware of people like
Yeah.
yeah, but then it's also I don't know.
I mean, I guess that there's something to occasionally I feel like she just chooses to go after something purely because she wants to prove to herself that she can achieve it or make it. So like she
Mm-hmm.
decided she was just going to live on the street for a month just to prove to herself that she could. She decided that she was going to work on a trolley
Right.
just because she was determined that she was going to work on a trolley. And
Mm-hmm.
there's something to be said for that, to picking worthwhile tasks and just pushing for them full force, just to prove to yourself that you can. And
Mm-hmm.
even if you succeed and then you fail, you tried, or even if you never, attempted, but you actually gave it your all, well, now you know what your all is, so you can kind of like gauge for the next thing that you want to try. So I guess there's something to that. She definitely did that several times. I guess if you really care about
Yeah,
something, go
totally.
all in. If you put your all into it, there's no such thing as failing.
Yeah, at
So
least you'll learn something.
yeah.
Um, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot. There's a lot to be
There's a lot.
learned.
There's a
Dear
lot.
readers, what did
What
you
did you
learn?
learn? Yeah, what did y'all learn from this
I'm still
book?
kind of like absorbing some of it, I think.
I
It's
know.
like,
Yeah. So we
because
had
some
3
of it's
weeks to
very
read this
intense.
basically, and I finished it last night.
Yeah, okay, same. I finished it today. I was listening
Yeah.
while I was working.
Yeah. But I was also like, I want to like really like read it and like comprehend it. And that's
Yeah,
also
me
why
too.
I could have finished it earlier than last night, but I didn't want to just like rush through and skim. So
Right.
yeah. But
Yeah.
I guess how many pinkies would
I'm
we give
glad I
this
read
book?
it.
Yeah. I mean, it's an
Um,
autobiography, so it's kind of weird. So I guess from a purely
it
writing
is,
perspective, how
but
many pinkies up
from
would
a
you give it?
writing perspective, this is
Yeah,
a 5 pinky book, I
it is a
think, for
5.
me.
I
I
agree. It's a
mean,
5.
like, it's always like whenever everyone's like, oh, it's so good. And then you're like, okay, I'm sure it's like good, but it's probably not as good as everyone says. But I'm like, no, of course
No,
it
it
is.
was
It's
it was
like,
better. Yeah, I should have
it's,
known it was gonna be. There were no
and
birds, but you know what? It
no
still
birds.
surpassed expectations.
Yeah. And it's always just so interesting to read about, interesting and alarming sometimes, and like sad to read
Hmm.
about things I mean, she literally could still be alive. She was
Yeah.
86 when she died. I mean,
Hmm.
she'd be old, but it's like
Yeah.
within a lifetime, like
Yeah.
things were
Have
this
changed
bad.
so
Do you know what
much.
I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
and not everything was bad, but like
Hmm.
some parts of her life, it was when she was young, were very intense, and like
Yeah.
the racism was insane. Like, it's just sad that it was within such a short amount of time ago, but it's also good that, like, obviously everyone, you have to keep working at things, but
Yeah. Well, I think the fact that we read something that took place literally like not even a whole lifetime ago, and we read it, and for the most part, I think most of us go, "Oh my God, that's horrifying. I can't believe people treated each other like that." That's
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 good that we've
good.
changed
That's
that much.
impressive that we did that on the whole as a culture. Not that we've come all the way. I know we're still working on stuff as a society,
Right,
but that we've
exactly.
come that
But
far is actually kind of awesome. Like,
yeah, I'm
yeah.
glad that it's way better than it was, you
Yeah, I'm
know.
glad we're not that bad anymore.
I'm glad
Lesson
everyone's not
learned.
that racist,
We're
but it
not as
is
bad as people used to be.
on the whole
Oh
not as
gosh.
bad.
Yeah. On the whole, we've improved
But
some.
part of
Well, I
that is
think it's
because of people like Maya who like
exactly.
championed things that she
Hmm.
cared about, and obviously like human rights and stuff.
Yeah,
Like people
exactly.
like her who worked really hard to get us to where we are.
Yeah,
So
it's
that's
true.
great.
I agree. And I think it was also hugely because she chose to tell her own stories, her own personal stories, not just like the stories of her people or the stories of people she knew who had gone through adversity. Because I think that I think that's what a lot of us would go to first if we were like, oh, I want to, make a change. I want to like communicate something important. So we would write something fiction, or we would maybe talk about something someone else has gone through, or talk about something from like a broader perspective. But
Right.
she poured out the every detail of her own personal life and her
Yeah.
experiences, and that's what made it so real, I think, to so many people who probably hadn't even realized that they had participated in this horrible, broken, cruel system until they realized how the tiniest, most mundane of their like daily, actions and reactions to people was contributing to, experiences of kids like her. And so,
Right.
I mean, I think that that's amazing. The
And
awareness that
the
she brought to
awareness.
people. Yeah.
Awareness. Yeah, and
Yeah.
like when you're telling your own story, that's like when it's going to be the most powerful, I think, honestly.
Yeah.
And like people are more in, like, you're, I guess is what you're saying, but I'm just adding, I guess.
Yeah. No,
But
continue.
like I think
I
that
love when you support my points. Continue to tell me how right I am, Kendall.
it was a great point.
Thank you.
But like I think that, well, for me, but also I think for most people, you kind of are more willing to listen to personal stories. Like it
Yeah.
makes things feel more real, like
Yeah.
if, instead of being like, racism was bad, or
Yeah.
racism is bad, but like
Yeah.
racism
Yeah.
contributed to people's lives in a very negative way and still has.
Yeah.
But instead of being like just in a broad sense, you can be
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, in this way is
In
how
this
it
very
contributed.
specific way.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's also, there's a power in telling the truth about your own life where people can dislike it. People can even disagree with your own conclusions about your life, but they can't say, well, that didn't happen. That's not true. Unlike
Yeah.
you, even if you write a commentary, and you want to write an article that says, the sky is blue and here's why I think so. Guess what? Someone is going to find something to argue with you about the sky being blue. And it doesn't
Right.
really matter if it's true or not, because people are going to find a way to argue. And because you're not telling your own personal experience, that's something that they can technically argue about. It doesn't
Right.
make them very smart to do so. Absolutely not. But people can't tell you how your own life went. They
So
don't
true,
know.
Bestie. So
So I think,
true.
yeah, it just, there's like a level of not protection against criticism, but like basically no one can call you out and say, that's not accurate, essentially,
Right.
to your
It's like,
experience.
actually it was because it was my experience.
Actually,
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
accurate to my experience because it was my own experience, and no one can tell you that it
Right.
wasn't.
So
And
true.
so
See, you're
I
so
like
much more
that.
eloquent than me. I'm like,
LOL.
I'm like, see, what book said I like, and you're like, well, really, this all.
I'm eloquent, thank you.
I like, God,
This is
I'll
just
let you do the
compliments for
podcast.
Ash.
I'm just gonna work on the Lost podcast, and you can take this one over, and it'll be
Oh
better.
God. I feel like I haven't been very eloquent, and it might also be because I just finished reading this book by Maya Angelou, perhaps the most eloquent woman who ever existed. And so I'm like,
I don't know any words.
I don't have words. There's no words. Yeah. It has been really hard to just like string together a sentence. And I actually had some sincere anxiety going into recording this episode because
Oh
I was like, what if I can't do talking about this book justice? Because the book itself is written in such amazing like language and
I was
communicates
worried
so
too.
well. I'm like, what can I possibly have to add to this
What
conversation?
do I add to I know why the cage bird sings? Like, sorry. Like
Me who was like, where are all the birds? I added a laugh, hopefully. You guys are welcome. I'll laugh at my ignorance. I'm aware that I'm ignorant, though. Okay, I'm not proud of it, but I am aware.
And we are aware that we have much more to learn.
Mm-hmm.
See, we keep coming back to awareness.
Yes, awareness. Oh God, yeah. But anyway, so that's
great. We did
everything we've got for I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings.
Yeah, thank you guys for being here.
Yeah, thank you guys for putting up with all of our. No one's here. It's an empty room.
That was weird. Why did I say that? I know.
I don't know. You're like, thank you for being with us today.
I was like trying to fill this. Literally, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for being here today. Ooh, but you know what we're doing for our Valentine's Day episode? It's coming out on the 13th of February. If you guys
I thought I did, but now I don't know.
I know you gasped like you did. King of Scars
okay,
by
I
Lee
did
Bardugo. Yes, with Haley. Is Haley going to join us? Is
Haley
is
joining us. Yes.
Hells yeah! I'm so excited.
Many thoughts. So
Perfect.
we're gonna have to buckle in and hope that we don't disagree with her too badly, or else she'll be upset. But
oh no, does she have really strong opinions? Does she have like
stupid.
weird opinions?
I don't know. See, I don't know because I haven't. No, super strong.
They were like, she has stupid
opinions. Let me tell you. No, but like I haven't read it, so I don't know if her opinions are weird or not. Like, trying.
Well, we're gonna find out.
We'll see.
Yeah. So I'm super psyched.
It'll be fun either way.
King of Scars is the one that follows Nikolai, correct?
Yeah, Nikolai book.
Which we all loved Nikolai because how couldn't you? So
yeah, he's a king.
Yeah.
Also Haley already took off for Shadow and Bone season 2 release date. So she was like, "So are we having another party?" And I said, "Are we having another party?" And she was like, "Of course we are." And I was like, "Oh, okay,
fantastic."
So mark it down. We're having another party.
Okay. I need to look up when it's being released, but that works perfectly for me. I know it's a long drive, but if we want to watch on my giant TV, y'all are always welcome to come over here.
Okay,
great. We can watch on the giant TV. And I did just add luster dust to my my grocery list because I want my drinks to sparkle.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, if you guys don't know what we're talking about, I do recommend that you go listen to our insanely long Shadow and Bone episodes that we recorded in season 1. It goes Shadow and Bone, Siege and Storm, Ruin and Rising. Each of which, no, just the last one. So we covered Shadow and Bone, Siege and Storm, and then Pod Nurse Haley joined us for Ruin and Rising, correct?
Yeah.
And it was spectacular. She's also joined us for Falling Kingdoms, which was fantastic. But if you guys haven't, it's not like a precursor. You're not going to miss anything if you haven't read those books, but they are like in the series where we meet Nikolai, which is what King of Scars is about. So if you guys like the Grishaverse and all that stuff, you guys should go check out those episodes. But I'm super jazzed about this. So that'll come out fun. 2 weeks from when this one comes out.
Yeah.
You guys are on the edge of your seats if you made it this far. you didn't turn off the podcast by now.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's everything we've got for you guys. So if you guys enjoyed this episode and or you just didn't hate it too much, if you wouldn't mind leaving us 5 stars, that would be amazing. It would be wonderful. We love to see all the reviews. Also, it really does help us because we get the better ratings and then they boost our pod to more people and we grow the book club more, which is very, very fun. But also the biggest way that podcasts grow and have always grown is word of mouth. So if you guys know some reader friends, whether they're super into podcasts or whether they say they hate podcasts, tell them that we exist and that we would love for them to join the club and just grow the book club. It is a book club and we love hearing from you guys. So you guys can also message us on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We are That Pretentious Book Club. You can also email us at contact@storysirenstudio.com. That's our production company. And you can also go to that website and you guys can look at all of our cool merch. So that's fun. And also the more followers we get on Instagram, the more giveaways we do, which is kind of exciting. Yeah. So I just packed up
our good ass giveaways. You guys.
I was like drooling over the gift box today because I packaged it up beautifully. I taped it all up. I wrote our winner's address and I was like, well, you're off to the post office now. And I sit here with none of this cool bookish merch. But we do cool stuff from like independent artists and we get like cool, like crafty book stuff. And it is awesome. So the more followers we get, the more giveaways we do. So if that's something that you guys are into, then just know we will absolutely do it again. We might do it sooner or later, just depending on how much interest there is. So yeah, I feel like I've rambled enough. So
no, that was good.
Thank you.
All pertinent information.
Yes, it was pertinent, you guys. I promise.
Hey, who are you calling pertinent?
By the way, I always love when someone's described as pert in a book.
Pert.
It's always said as an insult, and I'm like, I love this for us, for me and whatever the main character is that got called pert. Don't know why.
Pert.
Love it. Pert. Anyways, that's all we've got for you guys. We hope that you stay pert. And until next week, keep your teacups full,
your pinkies high,
and your book club
pretentious. Goodbye.
Goodbye.